Hello and welcome back to the Michael Edwards Show. I'm joined today by a very special guest, my friend and colleague, Emma Tynan. Emma is to me like a fairy godmother to anybody that has spiritual gifts. I was someone that was hiding in the closet and just not going, oh, I can't share this with the world, share this with the world. And I found her, I think, online and participated in one of her events. And it was so incredible the amount of support and wisdom and knowledge and just encouragement and magic that came around truly sharing myself with the world. And I'm going to give you the opportunity in a second to share about what you do. But to me, there's such a piece of like truth and visibility in your work that you're calling people into. And I cannot emphasize like has deeply impacted me. So can you share with us a little bit about what it is that you do?
Should I give the backstory first, Michael? I feel like for
Sure.
context.
Sure, we love context, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important because my journey is long-winded, but it won't be. I won't spend all day. I'm a very reluctant spiritual teacher. And I say this coming from a place of I feel like I shouldn't even be here. I was almost a cot death when I was 6 months old. I almost died when I was three. And there was this innate fear of being here ever since I was quite young. And from the age of about seven, there was a stirring within me of knowing. I was saying these like prophetic things from the back of the car. My mum would tell me I would just come out from nowhere with all of these things. I began to see guardian angels. I began to see loved ones that had passed over. I began to see spirits on the street. And that was pretty scary for a little kid. And from the age of about 11, I began to shut down those gifts. And
God.
between the age of 11 and 27, it was almost as if the anxiety and depression and lots of mental health stuff happened at the exact moment I began to shut down my spiritual gifts. And the healing began when I turned 30. So that's a long time from the age of 11 to 30. And we don't need to go into all of that. That feels like a story for another day, but it was, they were some hard years from the age of 11 to 30. And the reclamation of my spiritual gift, that has been the journey of my life. And I feel like I've had to walk that path in order to support others to do the same. And thank you for sharing that about, I can't remember what class that was, but that was one of my free classes. And that's what I've always aimed to do is whatever space, whatever way you come into my world, you will receive. If your heart is open and if you're ready, you are going to receive that deep activation and remembrance. But it has been my journey that
Yeah.
has, and my devotion to my craft. And it has from the age of 16, that was when I really started to, I was dabbling like behind the scenes. So it was like the secret thing that I was doing to help me get through all of those mental health issues. And it has been that journey to support people to remember who they truly are and what they are here to do and to bring that forward because the very thing that you are running from, that you are suppressing, is the exact thing that your people need, that your soul wants to express, that is the portal to bringing you what it is that you want, to manifesting those things. It's give it to us. And that's my job. That's what I do.
Oh my goodness. Okay, this is so crazy that you're on here now because this is exactly, of course, it's not crazy because we know it's resonance, it's a synchronicity. This is exactly what has been so present in my life. And I just started training with this new mentor who's does energy healing and he's been talking so much about this, about how we have these spiritual gifts and how we often are connected to them when we're young and that we turn them off and we shut them down. And
Hmm.
exactly what you're saying is that so much of the density that we experience in life is actually related to us shutting this down. And I'm the same. It's so funny. I mean, it all makes so much sense when you look back, right? But I was the same. I had all these weird things when I was a kid. I used to know lots of things before they would happen. I used to see things that weren't there or weren't visible normally. And yeah, I'm having this reawakening and it's been so incredible. And I think I remember even when I took that class of yours, there was this feeling of, I don't think I could share this with the world. I don't think I could share this with the world. And I remember you saying, that's the thing that unlocks it all. And for a long time, I hid under the guise of like therapist and coach and stuff. But I hit this ceiling. I really did. I hit this ceiling. And when I started being more vulnerable and honest and sharing those spiritual gifts and started actually sharing the things that I was reading in people's field and sharing all of these things, it was like we just catapulted to this whole other level. And it became the thing that people actually desired from me the most, and that all of these air quotes high level clients that I had wanted, actually I became a match for when I started owning my spiritual gifts, because it's actually the spiritual gift is the thing that that person wants. And so
Yeah.
I think it's just such an incredible, it's such an incredible thing that you're doing, and it's so valuable and it's so needed. And I love the way that you've, as you said, you've embodied that journey in your own life, and now you're helping others walk that path home to this truth of who they are.
I think what you shared there is interesting around hitting the ceiling. And this feels very resonant for a lot of my clients. And if you're listening to this and you're hearing that, it's because when we hit that ceiling, that is the call for a new vision. And this is what's been coming through for me at the moment, because what we crave as healers, as visionaries, as luminaries, as those leaders, pioneers, people are here to walk the path, to walk paths that have never been walked before, is we are always on this search for a new vision. Give me the new vision. Show me what's next. And the correction that we make in my world is that the vision is not out there, it is within, because higher up is deeper in. And in order to have the impact and to go higher and further, not from an egoic place, from a place of deep service, we have to go deeper within ourselves.
Mhm.
This is kind of the juice of my work at the moment with the work around Mary Magdalene and going deeper into the heart and the eye of the heart, that this is where it all is. I like to give the analogy of an oak tree. I'm always mesmerized by ancient oak trees, especially in the UK, hundreds of years old, these oak trees. Think of like the history that they've seen,
Yeah.
and they're still standing there. And they're only standing there because how deep their roots are. And in order to have this impact, we have to put our roots deeper into the ground. We must not be afraid of the darkness. We must not be afraid of putting those roots into soil that hasn't been felt before, new terrain. That's what's necessary. And that's how we stick around long after we're gone. It's that enables us to create the work. And I know if you're like me and your people in your world, like we're here to create work that's going to live and breathe beyond our physical selves when we're gone.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, there's so much in what you just said, and I love that you're talking, because 'cause you're Irish, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I have to share this thing with you. So, I was listening to this teacher, and she was talking about the value of understanding your ancestry and what spiritual practices that they had. And so I'm also Irish in my background. And I started learning a little bit about that. And she talked about in Celtic traditions, it's not as maybe structured as some of the other practices, but there's this real resonance with the land. And so it's you'll go to these places
Mm.
of land where there are trees that hold wisdom. And it was crazy when
Yeah.
she said that, because I've never been super into really structured meditation practices, but I always go into the forest. And in particularly here on Vancouver Island, I've been saying there's something about the forest here that connects me to my
Yeah.
channel. And there's this old wisdom that I get from the trees. And so when you're talking about
Well,
this
my
oak tree,
God.
I'm like, that's what it is. It's the like
Yes.
the resonance. So
Yeah.
good. So good.
And
Okay.
the mist, sorry, can I add
No,
something there? Because
yes, of
oh,
course.
I feel like I have to. So in Celtic mysticism, our mysticism is of the land. And it feels like another conversation for another day, but I have I communicate with trees and with the wind and with water. And all of these are powerful portals of communication. And when you're in Ireland, let me tell you, the land speaks. It is magical. Like I'm been living in the US in the Pacific Northwest, quite close to you, for the last
Yes.
7 years. And the ancient speak to me. The indigenous people have been speaking to me since I moved specifically to where I am in Washington. And this is the Church of the Great Mother. We live in the Church of the Great Mother in the forest, and her portals of communication with us these are her gifts, the landscape. So it makes sense for you and for me.
So good. So good. So I'm really curious too, if you're willing to talk about this today, about because I know that you work with Mary Magdalene, who's an ascended master. And I don't fully get the ascended master thing. Like, I understand it conceptually. And so here's the experience that I have is I think about frequency and being able to tune into all these extrasensory things. It's kind of like a singer that can tune into the difference between a C flat and a C sharp, right? Whereas the normal person is just hearing
Hmm.
sound. And I feel as we learn to tune into frequency and energy and read the field in things, I can discern so much more than I could in the beginning. Where do ascended masters come into that? What is that experience? How did you get connected to this? Would you consider that a frequency? Tell me, I want to know more about Mary Magdalene and that frequency or whatever you would call it.
Okay, so I'd start by saying I've never not been connected to
Okay.
the frequency. So from the age of 4, I have been connecting with ascended masters. For
Okay.
me, it happens as easily as I'm talking to you now. Who do I want to connect to? Okay, they're right here. What a gift,
Right.
right? That's to be able to claim that and to tune in. And that's what I do with my clients. That's what I do in my program. It's right here. So yes, they are an embodied. They are. I don't want to say they're embodied. Okay, she's coming through. She's putting the words in my mouth as I'm saying this. That she is an embodied frequency. She's not outside of you. Just as all the other ascended masters, I like to call them. These are awakened beings. These are people who came into human form, transitioned into non-physical, and they still are here with us, and we can
Hmm.
tune into them. Like when you walk into the forest, you can tune in when you turn on a piece of music, you can tune into them. When you sit in meditation, you can tune into them. It's as easy as sitting with an intention in your heart and waiting for their words. The problem is that many people encounter is they distrust what they're hearing. The ego immediately says,
Hmm.
"But no, that's a lie. I'm making it up. That's not true." And that's a huge part of the journey is that faith and that trust that what you are hearing is them. So that's the most in simple term put it as, but we live in there's so many frequencies. There is not just 12 dimensions or 15 dimensions. We live there's so many. I can't even put it into words as I'm trying. They're coming through now. I can't put a number on it. It's infinite, as in God towards the one. It's infinite. So the intention within our heart, what it is that we are seeking, it's all we need to hold, and we will be given that.
And I just felt that emotional shift is like you tapped into that. So what is it about that, the Magdalene frequency specifically, that's so special and so sacred to you and in your work?
Oh, so the backstory is that I grew up in Catholic Ireland, and it makes me so emotional even just talking about it. And it was so repressive and so guilt ridden growing up. And so there's just no space for all of humanity within the Catholic Church. And so I'm a recovering Catholic. That's the first thing I have to say is that this is not about religion. Mary Magdalene she is first and foremost, she existed at a time before Christianity was even a thing, right? She was just following this really radical preacher who was just teaching love at a time when Roman occupation was brutalizing people, especially living as a woman during that time. She had the same amount of rights as a slave. So
Mm.
the fact that she was traveling with this radical preacher talking about love at a time when fear and utter cruelty to human beings was the order of the day. And people had to live under this massively oppressive regime. She was following this preacher who was saying, we have to love each other. There is no division. There's no separation between you
Mm.
and me. And what is so radical about her and how she returned to me was through what happened in Ireland. For those of you who are familiar with this, if you are not, I invite you to just go and have a look about the Magdalene laundries. The Magdalene laundries were institutions that were set up for unmarried, pregnant women, and not just pregnant women. I'll just give a little backstory of this because the context of it is important as well. And these laundries were places where families would essentially, it's very hard to believe that this is true, but they would incarcerate their daughters, their sisters who were pregnant out of wedlock, and they were never able to leave. And they were made work for 14, 15 hours a day doing laundry. These were laundry. It was scrubbing. It was about washing your sins away. They were set up in the late 1800s. They didn't close till the 1990s in Ireland. And the children were removed and sold to families in America under fake names. And why I had to reclaim Mary Magdalene for Irish women, for myself, but for all of us, is because who she was, a radical prophet, student of love, the favorite student of this preacher, one who understood the teachings profoundly, great intellect. But during the creation of the church in the 300s, they didn't want women within the church. They didn't want anything to do with women within the church. So the Pope at the time, this was in the 500s, so Constantine didn't want women at all. So all her stuff, anything to do with her was ordered to be burned. Anything to do with the early Christian sects, with Gnosticism, with any of the offshoots that kind of happened post crucifixion.
Mhm.
And in the 500, Pope Gregory at the time gave this homily and said that she was a prostitute. What is the easiest way to discredit any woman, even to this day? Call her the whore, call her the prostitute. And for 2,000 years, the archetype, Mary Magdalene, we are all Mary Magdalene. Like this, it may start as a women's movement, but it can't end there because,
Yeah.
and this is where we get to your divine, to the divine. Mary Magdalene represents our divine, is the divine feminine, is our intuitive gift, the part of ourselves that knows what we know without ever having to learn it from anyone else. And in the reclamation of Mary Magdalene, the archetype of her, we're reclaiming our whole self. And this is how we are coming into union. This is about awakening. This is about coming, those two fully human, fully divine, coming together within ourselves and expressing that full truth. So it seems like a long winded way to get there, but it's impossible for us in the Western world to escape the story of her because our lives, it doesn't matter where you live in the Western world, Christianity has affected so much of the
Yeah.
way we believe and think in our everyday life. Whether you go to church or not, it's not about that. It's how society has been formed by the manipulation of the truth of the story, specifically Mary Magdalene.
Oh my goodness. I First of all, will never forget this conversation because I just got it while you were talking about that. Not just in the words that you were saying, but like in all of the emotions and frequencies that you just moved through. I get it. I get it. I don't know if I can explain it in words yet, but I get it energetically. And the amount of truth and power and conviction and passion that you just tapped into as you talked about that is striking and stunning, and I can feel it from you, and it makes me understand more about why this work is so important to you because, when you talk about her being I can't remember the exact verbiage that you used, but this prophet of, like, truth and love, essentially, it's like you, to me, are that, like, you are the embodiment of that. You're, like, calling all of these children of light home into this, into the truth, right? And dispelling the all of the shadow and all of the stories and all of these structures of control that have been
Yeah.
impressed upon us, and that's who
Yeah.
you are at your core, and it's so beautiful, it's making me emotional too, to witness.
And that's her. That is her. That is her essence that lives within all of us. And she is the most, she has a frequency to kind of go back to that that I have that goes beyond words. And that's why it's hard to describe. And it's hard for me to describe it, but you
But
get
you
it.
did but you I did, and that's the thing too, and this is I'm curious to know your thoughts on this, because I have realized with frequency, like, if we think about frequency like radio stations, right?
Yeah.
I have to know the channels there. It's like in the olden days when it was all radio, when you drive into the new town, they tell you the radio station frequencies, and then you know to tune into them. It's, "Oh, 98.5, that's the local rock station," or whatever, and then once the frequency's there, you can tune into it. And it's the same with like the frequency of abundance or the frequency of lack or like the frequency of whatever. There's all these different frequencies that we can tune into them. And the more that we understand them, the easier it is to go, oh, this is that. And I can tune into that. And so I feel like I don't even feel like I fully understand everything that I just received, but I feel like in everything that you said beyond the words of what you said, you were just expressing that frequency, and I think that it answered my question of this thing of it's almost like you've gotta know that the frequency's there, and I think, like, you talking about it the way you do is, "Oh, I get what that," like, I even felt some activation in my heart when you were speaking, and
Hmm.
it's, "Oh," and I think that's been my question with Ascended Masters is because I think they feel so far away to me from my experience,
Yeah.
although not so much anymore. So would you agree that there's almost this like we become aware of this channel or this frequency, and then the more familiar we become with it,
Yeah.
the more we can kind of tune into it?
I think ascended masters come to us when we're ready for them.
Mm, of course.
And of course, right? So Mary Magdalene turned up for me like that when she said, "Not in my name." And that's when I knew what I had to do.
Mhm.
That was when I knew what I had to follow. And she turned up and she was very stern on the reclamation of her truth. And that's how she turned up for me. And I think if we're open and we trust, oh, this is who I feel is with me now. This is the ascended master who I'm being guided by. Allow yourself to be taken. There's no push involved at all. It just
Yeah,
happens if you're in that full surrender. It will just be like ping, ping. I get a lot of people who'll be like, "Oh my God, I was just reading this thing about Mary Magdalene the other day, and now you're here and you're in my." I'm like, "Of course, because that's how they
yeah,
were."
because 'cause you're tuning
I
into
just turn
yeah,
off. You're
yeah.
tuning in, so you start to manifest these synchronicities, trans synchronicities at all.
But
It's the
but even
manifestation of the frequency.
totally. But I mean, even the fact that you were in the Catholic Church, like, that gave you the exposure to that,
Yeah,
and it sounds like you, through your gifts, could feel the truth beyond what was being taught in the church and, ultimately was able to connect to the truth of that frequency.
I did because I was so attuned to my truth that I knew that it was all bullshit.
Yeah.
I knew that what they were telling me about fear, and I mean, this was like intense fear
Yeah.
mongering. I remember I was really young, I was in school, the priest used to come in once a week and stand at the top of the class and teach us stuff and tell us God is love. He said, God is love. And then the next breath, but you have to be really good because God will also come down and strike you down if you do this or this. And the time goes up. But how can he be both?
Yeah. I went to
How
a
can he
religious
be
private school too, so I totally get it.
right? So, so from the very, I was like, this makes no sense. Like, this makes no sense. And I think there's so many of us out there now, I'm writing my first book as well at the moment. So many of us who are seeking a type of devotion that goes deeper than New Age principles, that goes deeper than
Yeah.
all the other modalities of understanding ourselves out there. Like we want depth, but we're not religious. We're deeply spiritual and deeply curious. And we want our roots to go deeper. But we know that the church is not out there because there's no church that would accept my truth, which is why
Yeah.
I made my heart the church. And that's what I invite everyone else to do the same. We build our church, the center of our own heart, and we fall in devotion to those words because there is no scripture more sacred or more powerful than the words of our own heart.
Oh, I love that. And it's so incredible to me. And I just was visiting one of my good friends who also had an OG mentor in sort of the world, right? Like I traded with Marissa Peer and she had one of the like OG kind of people in this personal development world that really has created systems that get incredible results. And I've really been recognizing more and more the value of these systems and being able to walk through something. And I know that in that little bit of your work that I got to experience in your free thing, you talked about you've actually created this system and you've mapped out this journey that you walk people through. And I know you've shared incredible results that your clients have had in terms of owning their spiritual gifts and getting like incredible visibility and opportunities. And I want to ask you about this, but I'll just add before I do one of the things, and of course, this was a very brief overview because it was a brief thing, but one of these key steps that you shared that was so impactful for me was this idea that we can't just we can't just jump to the world seeing us. We can't just jump from solidarity to the world seeing us. We have to let our loved ones see us. And that was something
Oh,
that
yeah.
that I was doing, right? Is I was like, okay, well, I'm ready for the world to see me, but I'm still hiding from my mom and my family and my loved ones. And
Yeah.
so when I came back to Vancouver Island and was spending time with her, I started to open up and let her see that more spiritual side of me. And I remember there was this day and I was walking the dog in this park and I got this hit. It was like, I was like, oh, there's something behind that rock that's not good. I'm really getting a vibe off this. And well, I've got to go see what it is now. And I looked and there was kind of like a backpack and some blankets and some other weird stuff that was all strewn around. And I just had this sense like, oh, like something not good happened here. Right? And I even had this moment of, do I call the police or something? What do I tell them? I was walking in the park and I just got this psychic hit. I don't know. But I went home and I shared it with my mom. Mom, this is like something that I deeply experience and it's like a really big part of who I am. And I just wanted to share it with you. I can even feel this in my heart as I talk about it. And it started this process of me stepping more into this truth of who I am, and it wasn't even about
Mhm.
whether or not she saw me, it was, like, me stepping into this seat of power of being available to being seen in my truth, and I actually just made this connection that I hadn't thought of until this moment, because now I am getting way more visibility, I'm way more visible on
Mhm.
social media, and I'm getting a lot of hate on YouTube particularly. I often wake up to hate
Yeah.
comments, and I don't give a
Yeah.
shit, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I think there's this thing where I've brought in the grid of people around me to see me. And it's not even about them seeing as me being available to be seen and me being in the trust and the truth of that. And it was so incredible to me how implementing this step from your program had such an incredible
Yeah.
impact on my life.
Yeah. Because we think we're being held prisoner by people who don't know us, but in fact, we're being held by prisoner by those closest to us. That's
Yeah.
the and when we can liberate ourselves from that, you're free. You're free. You're
Yeah.
free. You're free. And it's yeah, it's a big piece of the puzzle, but the frameworks are so important because
Yeah.
without the framework, we're just guessing, or it's a bit like Russian roulette. And I think I've dedicated the last 11 years of my life in the coaching space, and I feel like I'm one of the old timers now because it's changed so much since I started
Yeah.
11 years ago. But my dedication has always been the same to an obsession. I'll call it an obsession with helping my clients wake up to the truth of who they are. And I will do anything that I have to do in order to make that process happen for them, because that is what I am here to do for you and for those who come into my world, to remember the truth of who you truly are, which is the divine made real, the
Yeah.
divine in human form. And we know this on a cerebral level, but to embody this is the change, this is the work, this is the Mary Magdalene work at the moment. This is what changes everything. And also, it feels important to mention as well this piece around manifesting that has just come in while
Yeah.
I've been on vacation. It just feels important to mention it because so much of Manifesting for me, I really like recoiled from the word for the last 7 years because I was like, this just feels so trite and so entertainment based, right? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean when I say
I know
that?
exactly what you mean. I know. I've been th
Saying, right? You get it.
Yeah, I
And
get it.
Mary Magdalene, again, working miracles. And I've been asking her about it. How can I speak to people? And it's always, for me, it's always about words, always about helping me tune the frequency of my words, which you feel, to support people to experience fruition and breakthroughs and light within the dark spaces. And I've asked her about manifesting the truest way in which I can communicate this, especially this blueprint and this framework, is that we all have this powerful ability because we are the divine made human. We have everything within us, within the heart,
Yeah.
to co create, to manifest whatever we want. I get so fired up because this is a huge part of the result that my clients experience. Whatever you want. One of my most recent clients, 13 weeks, I said, by the end of 13 weeks, you'll meet him. She's waiting for her soulmate to turn up 13 weeks. She met him on the last week of our program. I know how this works. I know how to do this because I have this blueprint and this framework. So clients come to me, but there's a myriad of things that they're working on. Okay. But it ultimately is always two parts. It's about casting the vision, but also working within the body, our humanity, our human, right? You know this. It's like it's the subconscious. The channels are blocked. The shit we hold on to, the beliefs of
Yeah.
lack of self worth. We have to clear the body. And this is the one part of the whole industry of manifestation that nobody talks about. It's put it on your vision board, hold the energy, all really important, all part of the peak, but it's only half. It's only
Yeah.
50% because the other 50% is clearing all of the stuff, opening the channels, opening up to receive. And this client who I was talking about was meeting her soulmate. Her heart was blocked. She had a
Yeah.
massive blockage around the heart. Her heart was clogged over. And this is someone massively successful, like multiple eight-figure entrepreneur, like super. But the heart was closed.
Yeah.
Or you can't receive. So, but she had done all the prep work. All the vision was there. The energy was there. Everything was around her. It was working on the body. So that's why these frameworks are so they're so important for all of us to have uncovered, which is a piece of my work as well, supporting people. Like everyone has their own unique blueprint in order to activate exceptional results in their clients that become replicable, can't speak,
Yeah.
that become repeatable, right? And
Yeah.
so they know that the client comes in, do these things, results every single time. This is,
That's
of course, this
mastery.
is the way it has to. That's
Yeah.
mastery.
And
And
that's where I
that's where
think
everyone should be.
that's oh my god, this is, like, activating so many things within me, and that's what I'm saying, though, is I see and recognize that mastery in you with this your understanding of this journey and this framework, and often, like, my experience of just implementing one of the steps and how powerful it was, and I'm gonna share to this conversation about manifesting and how it's become this thing that's you just everywhere, is a block that came about for me is I got into certain people's worlds and method like perspectives, whatever. And it didn't work, and things didn't work, and there was no framework, and it was just kind of, like, all over the place, and so I think then, like, for a while, I doubted some of these things that I know that are in these
Yeah.
universal laws, and that was actually
Yeah.
a block for me to work through, and when I went actually
Yeah.
back to basics and the things that I know, and so I love that you're talking about that because it really is all about these basics and these fundamentals and making sure that we're actually living and aligning all of the pieces, like you said, conscious and unconscious, like energetic, my body, my mind, everything, all these pieces that we could talk about
Yeah.
forever, and actually living and embodying it. And that's where we get that into that. You can have anything you want. And I think
Yeah.
for me, it's been so important recently to block out the noise, to come back
Yeah.
to my truth and my gift and really own the thing that I have my mastery at. And then to be so discerning about who I'm listening to in the thing of, are they the embodiment of the thing? And are they getting this result for people? I've realized that like some people can do the thing for themselves, but it's a different thing to go, oh, I've
Oh,
created
yeah.
this system. And like you're
Yeah.
saying, I can get these repeatable results in my clients. And I think that's where I most see more of the mastery in you as I see this more, as I understand this more deeply, because yeah, like you said, you have created all of that and you understand it and you can see these incredible things. And I would love actually if you would, if there's anything you want to elaborate on that, but also if you have any incredible client stories that you want to share, because I know from being connected to you that you've got some pretty special ones.
Oh my gosh. There's so many I can't even think off the top of my head right now. That one was a most recent client result was her personal relationship. Is this easy? I want to say yes and no. So
Mm.
for her, 13 weeks, but also a lifetime of healing before she met me. A lifetime of work and of working with other mentors and with other doing all the work that's involved. Because I arrive in people's lives at a very specific time. I know this to be true. When people come to me, they've tried all the things and they have run and run and run and run from their truth.
Yeah.
And I'm going to invite you to do things that maybe are going to be extremely uncomfortable. For some people, it is dismantling their business. Is that comfortable? No. But is it worth it? Absolutely. Because they get on the path. And then when they get on the path, I'm watching people 12 months, 18 months down the line from our work, and they are lighting up the stratosphere as the byproduct of the work. So it's never just within 3 months and they get these big cash injections. I'm like, no, we're not. Yeah, yes, great. But in 18 months' time, are you fulfilling your soul's purpose? Are you setting the world on fire with your truth? Are you creating work that's leaving a legacy? That's what I care about. That's what I care about. And for some it's quick, for some it's slow, but it's different for everyone. So yes, my clients they make the big money, they get book deals, they're on TV shows, they're on this and that. And I've worked with from celebrities to stay-at-home mom. And the aim is always there. And I was just writing about this today, is that what everyone truly wants, what we all truly want is peace. The
Mhm.
type of peace in our body that can only be achieved from fulfilling the purpose, for fulfilling the life we came here to live. Then knowing
Yeah.
that if something happened today and I left the physical, I was doing exactly what I was meant to be doing. And that type of peace, that's what we're all longing for. That's it. And I mean, what more can I say? That feels that they're my results.
Oh,
That's what we do.
I love that you just shared this and that you linked this to this purpose piece as well, because this is also something that's been very active for me, and there was a lot of noise for a while that I was hearing about this whole thing of, "Oh, we've been sold this bill about how we're all supposed to have a purpose, but life's not really about that, and we just need to be happy and blah, blah, blah." And I've seen for myself and with clients, it's like expanding into the full expression of who we are is what fulfills us. And I was even listening to Bob
Yeah.
Proctor this morning, and he was talking about this. He was actually saying you should be dissatisfied because the dissatisfaction is
Yeah.
your soul going, there's more for you, there's
More.
more you can have, there's
Yeah.
more you're capable of being.
Yeah.
And yeah, connecting to that purpose, it's something that I'm just making this connection as I'm saying this right now and feeling it in the field. It's actually something that opens up sacral and helps more life force energy, vital force energy
Yeah.
flow through our being, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, I love that you're bringing this in and that I can feel the conviction in which you speak about it, because I agree. Like that purpose is part of what lights us up. And I
Yeah.
think we obviously don't want to be dissatisfied. We want to be able to walk with gratitude and like a softness to what is. And this is, I think, where maturity comes in. I think sometimes when we're entering this work or these conversations and we're experiencing things in a very binary perspective, it's like I'm either grateful for what is and I pacify myself and it's just like la la la, well, I just have to be happy with what I've got, and I diminish all of that sort of that tension and that desire and that purpose, or I'm focused on this thing, but then I'm so aware of the experience of what I don't have that it brings all this
Yeah.
negativity. And I think really like maturing into expanding our capacity to hold all of that and go, I can be in these positive feelings. I can be in gratitude for what I have, and I can be in the experience of my life in the present. And I can be in this expansion and acting
Yeah.
out my purpose and keeping that tension, that dynamic tension on the desires, because those really are like the signposts from my soul of where I'm going on my highest timeline. So,
Yeah. And I think to add to that, I feel like I love the word desire and the kind of the dichotomy of being in a state of perfect peace, of that peace in the soul of, oh, I'm so doing what I'm meant to be doing. This feels so good. And there's also this rich desire coming through of this creation that I feel, and I'm not really sure what it is, but I'm excited to find out. And it feels very Abraham Hicks, right? That kind of
yeah,
that beautiful tension that exists between both. But what I've always said, a huge piece is around softening any part of the ego or shadow that says, I want to cloud, I want to acquire, and instead shifting that in, I want to be all of myself. How can I be? Because in the being of all that we are, we attract everything, then gets reflected back to us. Then it comes into our life. Then the opportunities. I'm getting goosebumps.
I know
And
you're
that's
close
the truth.
too. Yes, and I think that's the thing that's I think gets missed, where there's in the manifestation and the like mass and the mass market manifestation conversation, it's like about having, and that's like my thing.
Yeah, accumulating.
Yeah, because my thing is authentic power, right? Like, really getting people into this, like,
Yeah,
center and truth of who they are and being so fully expressed, and what I've realized is that when people get into that state, they call the most insane things into their life. It just starts happening
yeah,
because all
yeah,
those things are a match to that, but then I've recognized that when I start talking about that too much, like, the manifestation, the match, then it, like, sometimes I attract people like, I don't know, there's something happens that's like a little bit of a mismatch sometimes where there's it's like people get too focused on the thing and not the
yeah.
like them and
The
their full
being.
expression of the being, yeah,
Yeah,
and that full expression of self, and it's so good, so beautiful.
yeah. And
So,
also the divine, I'll add one last thing as well, is that the divine expresses itself uniquely. Therefore, we're
yeah,
as fully divine beings, when we're doing this right, and this is for everyone to feel into this because we live in such a, especially in the online space, this carbon copy thing. If we're doing it correctly, our life is going to look completely different to the next person because
God.
the representation of what my life I have manifested so much of what I love. And in truth, moving forward, like I have the vision of a farm and a Georgian house in Ireland. And I'm surrounded by all my dogs. I'm like, how many dogs can how can I really get more dogs? Like things that I think about, I'm like animals and dogs. Like this for me is my version of luxury. And I'm such an anomaly because I love luxury travel, but I also love being in my Wellington boots and my tweed and taking country walks and being around my animals. And my life and for everyone else, your life is going to look completely different to the next person. So I let this as the beingness. But I think we're sold so much of should I want that or that? Maybe I'm doing it wrong because I don't have the private jet or I don't have the island or I'm not like in blue seas or on a laptop in Bali or whatever it may be. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That whole
totally,
piece as well is so huge. So it's the beingness and your life looking completely different. That's when you know you're on the money, literally.
totally. Oh my goodness, this is so good, so good. And I know that you have a very special event coming up. Do you wanna tell us a little bit about that?
I do, I do. So for the first time ever, I'm hosting my first ever international luxury retreat in Ireland in November. And it's called Devotion. And it is based on the Gospels of Mary Magdalene. And it's going to be a transformational portal, is what I've been shown for integrating everything that I've been speaking about here. Like the kind of work that I do is normally over 3 months, but a week in Ireland, we're going to be working through all of this. And we have women coming from all over the world. I feel like the type of people who are there is blowing my mind already. The people who are traveling and coming, it feels like the connections alone are going to be worth gathering for. But I'm really excited to bring these teachings to you and to the people in person and to gather in sisterhood in this space. So I'm very excited.
So good, so exciting. Something I want you to talk about because I've love in-person things, and I've also realized that there's this thing that can happen where we talk about what we do and we share so much. And sometimes I think we can get into this thing of listening and feeling like, oh, I get it. And I can just run with that. But there's such a power in deep mentorship. Like, I'll give you an example. With me, I'll have a lot of people, especially friends that are interested in what I do, will say things to me like, oh, well, but I hang out with you and we talk about my relationship stuff. Like, I've basically had a session with you, and it's, you don't even fucking know what a session
Yeah.
with me. Like, you're not even like 1% of what it is. And I have a particular friend he's very like, masculine energy, like ex special forces. And he kept saying that to me. He's like, well, I basically had a session with you. And I was like, buddy, like you, not
No.
even close. And then we actually had a session and he was just like, his brain exploded. He's like, I don't even understand how this is possible. It was so insane. It was so incredible. It was just like so beyond. And so, to your work, can you speak a little bit about what that is? Like the difference between following you on social media, or like the magic that's that happens in person and is going to happen at this retreat. Let's talk about that. Talk to me about that.
I feel like I feel like I want to bring it back to you because you shared about the amazing breakthrough that you had from my free class.
Yeah.
And like I said, my aim has always been about that you will get you come into my free world, you're going to get something, you're going to be able to walk away and use it and your life will change. I know that. But you come and you meet me in person, we're going to move through 10 years of stuff in 6 days. This is the energy that I am experiencing around this. And like I said, this is my first ever international retreat. The power of it being in Ireland, being connected to Mary Magdalene, doing it on the land that persecuted her name. We're not just we're not just reclaiming the truth of Mary Magdalene. We are reclaiming that lost part of yourself and putting you right back at the feet of your own personal power, of your own truth, of a deep activation of your spiritual gift, understanding your unique blueprint, what you are truly here to do, how your gifts work. I mean, there will be psychic activation, there will be soul blueprint work, there will be deep intergenerational healing. A lot of my clients come to me and they've got loads of Irish ancestry, and they're also holding on to loads of past life trauma because of that Irish ancestry as well. So, huge part of these people as well coming to the land and coming to Ireland is to reclaim that part that has been that needs they're going to come home and heal it. There's going to be a full circle moment. So
Yeah.
this is the space to come if you know that you have a massive thing to do in the world and you're ready to stop running. You're ready to stop running from your own heart. You're ready to stop running from your own truth and acknowledge who you truly are. And then when you leave, go out and give that to the world, because I can guarantee that is where the manifesting, this is the portal. Everything that you want will come as a direct reflection of you going out into this world as this new person. It is a rebirth. It is a rebirth for sure.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh my goodness. I'm like, do I go? Maybe I have to come. It just sounds so magical. What
Thank
was I
you for
gonna say?
asking me to share that. And I'm grateful because it helps me really
Connect
talk about it in that way as well and connect to it, because I'm pretty modest about my work and my client results and everything that happens in my world. So thank you
It's
for
my
asking that.
pleasure. It's my pleasure. And of course, we'll put all of your links below. So wherever you're witnessing this conversation, you can find Emma's links below. But where can people find you?
They can also, what I want to add is for your listeners as well, I've got a discount code of $500 off enrollment, which is
Oh,
pretty amazing. And they just need to enter in Michael, and then they will receive $500 off. I'll have private suites, bathrooms. This place is magnificent. This venue, by the way, I need to add farm to fork meals, cold plunges, theater saunas, all your meals. We're doing pilgrimages across the west of Ireland landscape to the Burren. We're going to all these holy wells. I mean, where can people find me? EmmaTynan.com, and just Google me and you'll find me in all the places. That,
oh my goodness. You're
that's
speaking about
it.
all of my favorite things. This is so good. This is
Yeah.
so good. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all of your magic with us. It's been a huge honor. And do you have any final things that you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. This conversation was so beautiful. I feel like there's a synergy between us, and we could have honestly spoken for another 2 hours. No problem.
Totally. Well, we'll have to have you back for sure, for sure,
Yeah,
for
I will
sure.
do it. I will do it. But thank
So
you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's an honor. Loved it.
the pleasure was mine. The pleasure was mine. So everyone, thank you so much. I'm sending you so much love and bye for now.